Good evening and welcome to the Job Search Solution, the radio program where we talk about looking for a job, changing jobs, changing careers, hiring. And as always, we begin with a prayer. Dear God, grant us thy peace and thy mercy, thy will be done. And as we do every Wednesday evening, Rich Shavinsky is going to be with us here in just a few minutes, talking about consultants in the workplace. East 57th Street is placing consultants all over the country, and he always has some interesting observations from in the trenches regarding consultants. Lately, we've been spending 10 seconds of gratitude. So think of 3 things today that you're grateful for. You can't be unhappy when you're grateful. Go. There are a few things in this world that you can never get enough of or get enough of. And gratitude is one of them. Being grateful. Try to do it more than once a day, but think about it. We've been talking about the myths of hiring. And here's some myths. They have to do with age and gender. We need someone older because they're more responsible. That's a myth. Now, maturity has nothing to do with age. There are many immatures, 60-year-olds, that are still messing up their life. They're not necessarily more responsible. It doesn't make people more responsible. Young people are more irresponsible. That's not true. There are some young people that are irresponsible, and there are some young people that are responsible. Find out by interviewing them well and finding out what they've done with their lives, stories about the way they grew up, stories about the people that they've grown up with, stories about the jobs that they've had. If you let people tell enough stories about themselves, you find out how responsible or irresponsible they are. It has nothing to do with age. There's a tendency to think that, well, now, it is true that when you're young, you can get away with being a little more irresponsible than you can when you're older and have 3 kids that you have to put through college. That's true. But that doesn't necessarily make you more responsible foundationally. Women don't do as well as men, and women do better than men. Now, the truth is that women usually work harder than men. They have to. If you find a real successful woman, you find that most of the time she's worked harder than real successful men. I'm sorry, that's just the way things are. The same goes for minorities or anybody along that line. I found in the more than 51 years that I've been doing this, that anybody that is in one of those categories usually has to work harder. That's the way life is. But the ones that do, boy, they really do. They have to overcome whatever is perceived to be a setback or perceived to be a negative. They just have to. And so, my estimation, women and minorities do work harder than men to get ahead, to be more successful. But it becomes an individual thing. And it can't necessarily be generalities. Just take it into account when you're interviewing them. That's all. That's a thing that people have to take. And if you interview well, You find out how responsible or irresponsible or how well people have done or not done as well if you interview well. We have a tendency to like people and or dislike them, and therefore we make judgments about them because we like them or dislike them. Some people say within the first 10 to 15 seconds of interviewing them. That study has gone back as far as 1960s. People make judgments about hiring people in the first 10 or 15 seconds of interviewing. You got to avoid that a little bit. And those judgments about age and gender and everything like that, you have to investigate by doing interviews well, asking lots of really good questions and really get a deep understanding of what the person is about. Be mindful of the prejudices that you might have. If you're interviewing a young kid, there's a tendency to think that they're, as a group, irresponsible. Try to prove yourself differently. Try to prove your idea about them wrong. Just interview well. Interviewing well overcomes all of these, but they are prejudices to start with. I get told that kind of stuff all the time. Now, I know nobody's supposed to do that, but they do. Don't send me a kid because I've raised enough kids. I don't need to raise any more kids. Don't send me somebody that's older because they already set in their ways. They're ridiculous. Those kind of lump thinking just really, it doesn't make any sense. Just keep that in mind when you go to interview, and they are myths. All right, we're going to take a short break. Stay tuned. This is Tony Bashir with the Job Search Solution.